I didn't quit smoking when it was killing me. I quit when I realized it was controlling me. Most of the time, it does not walk into your life looking dangerous. It walks into your life looking normal. It looks social. It looks cool. It looks like something everybody else is doing. So at the time, you don't think about it twice. I remember the first cigarette I ever tried. I was 16 years old in the car on the way to school. At that age, you don't think about the end of something. Excuse me. You only think about the beginning. You only think about fitting in, not the dependence. You think about being part of the crowd, standing outside with people who laughed and joked and acted like they had life figured out. Who wouldn't want to be a part of that? At the time, it felt like a small thing, just a cigarette, just one moment, just one decision. But some small decisions don't stay small because nicotine, when it gets a hold of you, it doesn't want to let go. What starts as a choice can slowly become a ritual, then a habit, then a dependency, then a voice in your life that starts telling you when you need relief, when you need calm, when you need a break, when you need to get through the next hour. And after enough time passes, you stop asking whether you want it or not. You just reach for it. That was my story for a long time. I smoked on and off from the time I was 16 years old. At different points, I was smoking a pack a day, sometimes a pack and a half. Sometimes I was even smoking 2 packs a day. And yes, there was physical addiction in that. Of course, there was. Your body gets used to it, your system expects it, your brain starts building routines around it. But for me, the bigger battle was mental. That's the part that people don't always talk about enough. Because quitting is not always just about getting nicotine out of your body. Sometimes it's about facing the belief that you need it in order to function. That was the trap. I had convinced myself that I needed a cigarette to get through the day. I needed one because the anxiety was too high. I needed one because the stress was high. I needed one because I was overwhelmed. I needed one because I was frustrated, because I was tired, because I was me. That's how addiction talks. It takes your struggle and offers itself as the solution. It creates the wound and then tries to sell itself as the medicine. And that's the scam, because the cigarette was not rescuing me from stress. A lot of the time, the cigarette was helping create it. It was feeding the cycle. It was training my mind to believe that I could not regulate myself without it. It was turning normal discomfort into dependency. It was making me think I was coping when I was really obeying. That's a hard truth to face because the moment you realize you can no longer pretend it's helping you, now you have to admit that this thing you've leaned on is also the thing that's been controlling you. And once you see that clearly, a decision has to be made. For me, that decision became real April 1st, 2023. That's when I quit smoking. Now, I want to be honest about something. I did use nicotine gum for a few days, and it did help. I'm not here to act like every journey has to be some dramatic soap opera to be real. Sometimes help is help. Sometimes a bridge is a bridge. If something helps you get from where you are to where you need to be, use it. But after a few days, I did go cold turkey. And that's when I really learned what I was fighting. Because yes, there were cravings. Yes, there was discomfort. Yes, my body had something to say about it. But the real war was happening in my mind. That's where the negotiations started. That's where the excuses showed up. That's where the rationalization came in. And that's where the old voice tried to tell me one cigarette wouldn't matter. I could start tomorrow. Today was stressful enough. I deserved it. I needed it. And that's the part people underestimate. The battlefield is not always out in the world. Sometimes the battlefield is in your own head. Sometimes the hardest thing you will ever do is sit with yourself and not give in to the version of you that wants relief right now at the cost of your freedom later. That's what quitting became for me, a mental game. I had to challenge myself. I had to tell myself over and over that I did not want it anymore. Because before I fully believed it, I had to convince myself of it. I still reached for it in my mind. When every routine was still there, even when my body and brain were both asking questions, I had to keep saying it. I do not want this anymore. I don't need this anymore. This doesn't control me anymore. And eventually, repetition turned into belief. That's an important truth all by itself. Sometimes you don't get to start with a full belief. You just start with a decision, and then you repeat that decision until your mind catches up. A lot of people think change happens when you feel ready. That's not always true. A lot of times, change happens when you're tired of being owned by something, when you're tired of making excuses for something, and when you're tired of handing your peace over to something that has done nothing but take peace from you. At some point, quitting stopped just being about cigarettes. It became a challenge to myself. Am I ready to let this win? No. Am I really going to keep bowing to this thing? No. Am I going to keep giving this habit authority over my mood, my thoughts, my routine, my body, and my future? Or am I going to beat it? That question matters way beyond smoking because everybody has something. Maybe it's nicotine, maybe it's alcohol, maybe it's approval, drama, maybe it's toxic relationships, maybe it's anger or self doubt. Maybe it's the story you keep telling yourself about who you are and why you cannot change. We all have something that tries to move into the driver's seat. And sooner or later, all of us has to ask the same question. Who is in control here? That is the real issue. Not just whether something is bad for you, not just whether it costs you too much, not just whether it affects your health. The deeper issue is control. What has your obedience? What have you built your routine around? What have you allowed to become your answer for stress, pain, loneliness, boredom, insecurity, or fear? Because if you cannot go without it, you need to be honest with yourself about what that means. And honesty is where freedom starts. For me, freedom did not show up all at once. It showed up one day at a time. That's not a glamorous answer, but it's the real one. I did not conquer years of smoking in one giant heroic moment. I conquered it in ordinary moments. One craving at a time, one refusal at a time, one hard day at a time, one moment of choosing myself over the habit at a time. That is how a lot of victories happen. Quietly, privately, without applause, without a crowd, just you making a better decision when nobody sees how hard it is. And I think that matters because people often want change to feel big and dramatic. They want fireworks. They want instant transformation. They want to be have one perfect moment where everything flips. But real change looks more like this: a decision, a hard day, a stubborn refusal, another hard day, a passing craving, a deeper breath, a little more confidence, a little more strength, a little more proof that you're not powerless as you thought. And then one day, you realize something has changed. It does not own you like it used to. Now, I want to say this too, because I never want to fake perfection. I still have days when I take a deep breath and that old longing shows up just for a second. It still happens. Not often, not like before, but every now and then a memory shows up, a sensation, a reflex, a ghost of an old habit. But that's all it is now, a passing thought. Not a command, not an identity, not a master, just a passing thought. And that right there is growth. Growth is not always the absence of temptation. Sometimes growth is the presence of power. It's not the thought that never appears, it's that the thought no longer controls your next move. That is a huge difference. Because there was a time when that urge would have decided my day. There was a time when that craving would have led the whole conversation. There's a time when the thought would have become action before I even stopped to question it. Now, it passes through because I took my power back. And I think that this is a message I want to leave everybody with who's listening and fighting with something of their own. You may be more mentally trapped than physically trapped. And that means the exit might start in your mind. Not with pretending it is easy, not with acting fearless, not with one magical quote, but with a decision, a real one, a stubborn one, a repeated one. It's got to be the kind of decision where you keep telling yourself the truth until the truth gets stronger than the craving. The kind where you stop romanticizing the thing that is draining you. The kind where you stop calling dependence comfort. The kind where you finally decide that peace matters more than the pattern. If you're in that fight right now, hear me clearly. You do not have to win the next year today. You do not have to defeat the whole mountain before sunset. You do not have to become a perfect person by tomorrow morning. You just have to win this moment, then the next one, and then the one after that. That's how I did it. One day at a time, one challenge at a time, one act of reclaiming control at a time. And in the end, that's what this became for me. Not just quitting smoking, reclaiming authority over my own life. That's bigger than nicotine. That is identity. That is self respect. That is looking at something that has had a grip on you for years and saying, you don't get to run this anymore. I do. Be the spark. Ignite change. Evolve 1 minute at a time.